content over everything.
Then it means you really have a mental disease. And what is the disease? It is miserliness, avarice, avarice is greed. And the other disease, these are all diseases of the mind. The other disease is antisocial disease, to be against everybody else. What do you think about it? Yosha, what's your opinion?
Well, in terms of the hoarding thing,
Yeah.
I agree with what you were saying before. I just don't understand, one, the panic culture.
Yeah.
And the kind of that level of fear, but two, the kind of irrationality that comes with just hoarding that much at the expense of others. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's incorrect, and it suggests to me that there should be some kind of rationing system in the country. You know what I'm saying? To make sure that kind of thing can't take place, because
Yeah, but my supermarket has put some labels, only 3 per person.
Right.
The hell, when they put that label, people take even more.
Yes,
because
yes.
they think only 3?
Yes.
What am I going to eat next week?
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
Now you go in the bus, if you see anybody wearing a mask, everybody look at that person, oh, he's a sick bastard. I'm going to get away, he's a sick bastard, I'm scared. So this type of psychological distortions about reality is something that has got to be publicized and trying to help people to diffuse the panic.
How would you do that though in a situation like this?
Well, you have to be realistic. Look at reality. Reality is the truth. The truth never fails you. Me and you talking now are the truth. The truth doesn't fail you because it is very clear about the fact that it is wrong to hoard, deprive other people that might have small children of a chance to survival. So, why people don't have any kind of moral compass to figure out that I am not the only one? It's true that in some crises we can say any action taken in order to survive is always the right action. That is quite justifiable, but in the apocalyptic war situation. So if you don't kill the enemy, it will kill you. So obviously you are justified. But not in a situation that is still under control and hoard so much stuff that you enter stores seeing empty shelves. It gives you depression, not panic.
No,
to me,
madness.
it's depression.
It's madness. I was in a supermarket yesterday, and a man walked out with a trailer, a trolley load, of nappies here, piled up to the point whereby there will be 2 trolley loads of nappies. And I've got a baby who's using nappies. I'm thinking, I've gone to the nappy section. There's hardly anything left. There's no wipes, right? And this guy's just walked out with the equivalent of 2 trolleys, of nappies. I'm like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but there is also the problem of black market. Some people don't have babies, don't have
I was thinking that. I was wondering if you got a baby or not.
They think, thanks God there is COVID-19. Finally, I can make a good business out of it. I make money out of it. So these people should be grabbed by the throat, put in the corner, and seize all what they are taken. If there was a serious government with balls and with authority, seize what they are taken and tell them with no uncertain terms, you are a thief. You are stealing the chance to survival to other people. That's what should be said. That's why I'm against this miserable bastard that steal the chance to survival of other people.
A question that you may know you may know the answer to this more than me. Is that situation? Is the same things taking place in other countries? Is it taking place in China, for example? That kind of hoarding, is it taking place?
Well, I believe the mentality of our economy can only exist if we keep on buying and consuming. Mm-hmm. If we stop buying and consuming, the whole capitalist economy collapses all around the world. So, obviously, in China is also capitalist. It's not socialist, but it has strong government. Strong government means that resources are allocated in certain sectors to make and to provide for 1.5 billions. That is the point.
Okay, so people don't have to hoard in China.
One strong government is absolutely necessary, like Modi in India also. These strong governments are necessary to distribute and allocate resources as humanely as possible.
So is that what's happening in China at the moment?
Yeah.
Right.
That's why they have controlled the coronavirus, because they took drastic measures. That seems horribly inhumane, because you think, well, they board entire buildings, they isolate entire buildings with people inside, because the one inside have the epidemic, and it seems a horribly inhumane measure. But by boarding away 400, 1,000 people, how many live in that building, you save the lives of millions. That is what is the priority, to save 1,000 or millions of people. You have to go by priorities. Priority is the first thing that must be taken into account.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of behind on a lot of the information to do with Corona. So I don't know how you think.
Well, I made, I wrote myself. I made all kind of research on this, because I have children, Yes. When you have children, you start thinking, my goodness, you look at them and say, look at the poor frail creature, what future has, what is his future? For me, it's okay, I'm old. If I die tomorrow, no big deal. But those they are blossoms. They have a right to exist. So, the fact is this. Wait, I have to find it, because I have a lot of stuff. I'm studying economics.
Okay.
You see, so obviously, when you study economics, you have to put all the stress. You put all the stress on the economy, because it's true that there is a pandemic panic. But the worst of panic is the panic of starving to death. That is what is going on. When I see empty shelves, I think, my goodness, the starvation and hunger will kill me before the virus kill me. At least if I catch the virus, I will probably die with empty tummy. If I die by starvation, then my goodness, that's a horrible death. Nothing in your tummy.
But the thing is, I'm just not seeing the logic of it. I don't know that packing up your house with food is going to save you from the virus, if that makes sense. Or, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not seeing why it's necessary.
Well, it is panic is not necessary. Of course, it's not. Yeah. But you have to remember one thing that people forget a lot. There are situations, for example, when there was the crisis, the Great Depression of the 1930s, there were soup lines, everywhere soup lines. The problem of the soup lines, they said that there were people being infected by the food of the soup lines. Why? Because when you produce food in such a massive scale, germs, viruses, vermin, parasites, maggots, everything goes in that food. So the fear also of the soup line is quite justified, even if now we are supposedly more hygienic and more concerned about what we put, how much we cook, how hot is the temperature, because obviously hot temperature kills viruses, also COVID. So what is the situation now is that I wrote it here, I can't find it at the moment. But
That's all good. But yeah, it's good to be informed.
you have to be informed, and I am trying also to make people ridicule of people that have this greed and hoarding and greed, because we have 5 afflictions in our mind. One is anger, that guy, ego, attachment, lust, greed. These are afflictions. How do you control the mind if you never learn to meditate, which comes down the mind? How do you control the mind? You can control the mind knowing the effect of these 5 afflictions. If you know what damaging effect the 5 afflictions have got, then you control the mind. In the case of this guy that is suffering of attachment, he's here always on camera every Sunday since the last 2 years. It is attachment. Attachment is probably the worst of the 5 afflictions. It's worse than greed, lust, anger, and ego. It's worst. And I'll tell you why it's worst. Because when you suffer of attachment, you get unduly attached to other people, to another person. And because you are attached to that person, or also being attached to coming to this park every Sunday is an attachment. Because you are attached to something, you feel insecure. You feel, oh, I am not my own person, I'm not my own woman, I'm not my own man. I'm not in control of my choices. So you feel insecure. Because you feel insecure, you start hating anything that has created the problem of attachment in you. That's why he's very hateful, this guy.
But this lady, I heard this lady, she might want to say something because she's from China.
Oh no, she's from Hong Kong. She's a sellout from Hong Kong. She just she would say any lie against China. These two are anti-China clowns.
No, I know this. But she was speaking.
Pavlov and her are anti-China clowns. Yeah. Finally found a girlfriend. He's very happy now. He's calm. Thanks God for that. Found her perfect match made in heaven, and now is a bit more calm. Otherwise, he's very vicious, very insulting, very denigrating. He put any kind of remarks against most of the people that are the only one that makes sense in the park, like you. You make sense because you are informed. He would never talk good about you. And if you are an ignorant gossiper and stupid person, silence, total silence. So this is the people that denigrate and debase the beautiful opportunity that we have to talk to our similar to people, After all, we are collective animals. We are not meant to live as hermits. We are meant to live around people. That's why they come here every Sunday, because it's the only chance they have to live around other people. Therefore, no, sorry, I took your time.
No, I wasn't saying anything. I was just saying because I was wondering, based on what I saw her say last week, if what you would say in relation to what she said.
Yeah, well, last week I did not come. I did not come for 3 months.
Yes.
I just made an escape, narrow margin escape from Italy. So, but I'm not scared of the virus. I'm far more scared of the people who suffer this greed and panic of hoarding and taking away a chance to survival for other people, especially those who have children. You know, you have to provide for those that cannot fight for themselves. They cannot go, you know, if you are even a 10 or 12-year-old, you cannot go there and hoard the things because they will push you away. Big guys, big women, they just push you away. Oh, he's only a child. Get him out. I remember when I was a child, I used to go and buy bread on Sunday, and because on Sunday the bread had to be the freshest from the oven. And I remember the viciousness of the adults. They would buy huge amount of bread, and the children were there waiting 2 hours because they never respected the priority that the child came first and should buy before. No, children waiting there, and children are shy, you know. They don't like, or they're shy. They don't say, oh, look, I came before you. So at the end of the buying, the child went home with nothing and got a good beating, a horrible beating from the parents saying, what? You were there 2 hours, what did you do? You know, and then somebody explained, he said, look, it's the adults. They don't let the child to buy. And the child comes back without bread. And then some people were then trying to let the child pass, you know, some people with more conscience. But this is what's happened. Unfortunately, it is survival of the fittest. In survival of the fittest, the big bully, muscle man, and arrogant and vicious, I would say, because obviously if you deprive another human being of a chance to buy food in a panic situation, you are a murderer. You should be arrested. But because there is no government really, no strong government, these people get the upper hand. And who is the survival of the fittest? Of very nasty criminals that deprive the right of survival to other people. That is what is bad when there is no strong government. The big, strong bully rules and the others have no chance of survival. But the vicious individual has all the chance to survival because he can just push everybody else aside, and he is the one that gets the resources.
Well, yeah, I agree. So I guess we're going to have to see how this plays out and how the government decide to deal with it. Because a lot of them are getting a lot of criticism at the moment.
Well, if you look at what Boris Johnson is saying, I mean...
I've already heard a snippet of it, but yeah.
I mean, you just want to shut the TV immediately because you can't really take that.
Interesting question though. How do you think, if Corona had been a thing in December, how do you think it would have affected the election?
Well, obviously, it would have affected the election a lot.
I was thinking that, especially because Corbyn's kind of primary platform, kind of issue was the health service.
Yes.
I think it would have had a dramatic impact.
Yeah, they kept it very, very quiet and silent. Actually, nobody really knows how this coronavirus came into existence. I heard different studies. For example, the one study that is very interesting, it started back in 1998 with anthrax. Do you remember the anthrax scandals? And anthrax was the spurs, you know, they have spurs anthrax, were triggered by, in Russia, this was in Russia, in Siberia, were triggered by it was an illegal factory of fireworks, illegal fireworks factory. And these anthrax spurs turned into back then they call it code virus. But how it went to China is possible that it went to China during the Chinese New Year, when they buy huge amounts of fireworks, and most probably it came also from this illegal factory of fireworks. This is one study. Another study said clearly that in Hunan province, the American soldiers went there and had the virus. The team that was playing sport against another Chinese team and brought the virus in Hunan province in China, and it spread it like that. Another theory, I guess, could be reality, that is because of animal game meat. Game is not regulated by the Department of Hygiene. Obviously, if it's not vaccinated, not regulated, it's possible that has viruses that are harmless to the game meat, but they kill people, the people that eat them. I don't really believe that, because I have Chinese in my house in the United States, and they told me, and they come exactly from Hunan provinces, by the way, they told me that the method of cooking in China, all over China, is at a very high temperature, thousands of degrees, with 3, 4, 5 burners. So also in the families in the house, they cook at a very, very high temperature, and that would kill any virus. So it's possible that somebody doesn't have the possibility of having this very high temperature cooking, and the virus spread it for meat not properly cooked. Then another idea is that of the idea of the humanist. Humanists say, if you have in the world massive poverty unleashed by all these sanctions, that Trump is the virtuoso of economic sanctions, unleashed on poorer country, because comparatively China is definitely poorer than US. If you have all these sanctions, then it is a strong, dangerous measure. It is a very dangerous measure to put economic sanctions on poor countries, because the population is too poor to cook food properly, to kill viruses, is too poor to buy safe food, is too poor to grow even food according to national hygiene standards of health in the food industry. So obviously, if you don't implement these measures, because the country is under severe sanctions. Look how many sanctions they threw against China, against Iran. That's why Iran has a major epidemic, very high, like Italy, Spain, Norway now, that has been shut down, and all these countries. If they suffer sanctions, they are more likely to have the spread of epidemics. And it is a fact that poverty and disease and viruses and new strands of epidemics are closely linked. So this is what, humanely speaking, we should be against sanction and against Trump that does nothing. Instead of sending, like in the past, the troops to kill people, he was sending, he changed the method of Obama. Now he's sending all these sanctions. And this is what makes him the #1 murderer of the world, through sanctions. Through sanctions, yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. No sanctions. Sanctions are the killer of the world. So the killer of the world is Trump through sanctioning poor countries.
I agree.
Boo, we
Well,
love
I
Trump.
want to ask about the
Big
sanctions
up Trump.
they did on Russia. I want to ask
We're
about
gonna
those
do-
sanctions.
I'm going to continue
they
the
are
conversation I was having.
Big
with
up
with
Trump,
everyone.
man. Come on.
Yeah.
Did you have any sanctions killing people lately?
If you want any comment, you are most welcome because you're quite an intelligent guy.
Thank you.
You are a bit biased, but you are an intelligent person. I heard your meetings. I like very much the philosophical part. You're very good. Very good. I didn't have time to look at your channel because I was in Italy. I had problems to solve.
How bad is
But,
it there? How bad is the
Well,
contamination?
Venice is shut down. Nobody can enter Venice. And it's my city. Milan and the whole region of Lombardy is shut down, unfortunately. And it's not under control because there are more deaths. But the problem is that we don't know who has got it. Could be your mom, your brother, somebody in the house. And once it is spread in the family, it spreads everywhere because these people have contact with other people. So you talk about spreading by the 100,000, then by the thousands of thousands. And you know, it is because it takes 3 weeks on average to know you have the disease. I don't panic about it, but I should because I have children, they bring me the disease from the school. I should panic, but anyway, I'm a survivalist, you know. But I appreciate your philosophical knowledge because I am a fond writer, reader of philosophy. But yeah, there are differences, of course. We are not the same. We don't come from the same culture, you know, and you come from a different culture.
I mean, this is not a very philosophical conversation. It's about politics mainly.
It is also philosophy. It is also philosophy, in a way. It is.
When did you become camera shy?
No, I mean, I don't want to kick you out on the camera. What, am I just going to come here and kick you out?
You know what is
I'll
a
stay behind
philosophy? I give you my opinion about philosophy. Philosophy asks why of everything. Why no, that road is like that? Why there is some whatever other type of material there? Why we exist?
Yeah, of course.
Why
That's a good question.
we die? Where were we before being born? Where are we going before dying? You know, it is philosophy. It's asking questions. Some have tried to answer the question in a very instinctive way of figuring things out. Others have made deep studies, read books, because they want to also make use of people knowledge that lived before us. So it is a matter of, but your questions are very valid, I think. What I don't agree with you is that you have a tendency to have an attachment to certain principles. It is a way of not wanting to make an inquiry about other visions of life, of reality. It is a personal choice, but attachment to me. Well, you are attached to, for example, coming every week in the park and talking to people. That is an attachment. I also have that attachment. And I hate that kind of attachment because, in fact, attachment, it makes you dependent on something while we should be very free, very independent. And you know, it would be better if we could be free and independent. Do you agree?
Sure, but look, I don't come here absolutely every single Sunday. When I have something else more important to do,
Yeah, that's
I don't
good.
come here.
Yeah.
I've missed a few Sundays. I usually like coming here because I like talking
that's
to
good.
people and I like discussing things.
Yeah, very good.
But I don't know. I mean, you have the same attachment. So
Yeah, it is a same attachment. No, but I'm saying, I believe is wrong to be attached to something that it gives you insecurity. To be attached, it gives you insecurity because
I don't think it gives me insecurity to be here.
No, in the sense that you have that amenity on a Sunday, but there is always the fear of being taken away because you said the wrong words, or being taken away because somebody denigrates you. And that fear, it is something that you start hating the environment or other people because of the fear that the environment triggers into you. And it is part of the attachment. Attachment also triggers hatred. Hatred in the sense that you start hating something that is beyond your control. You know, if you can control it, it's fine. But if you cannot, because people are vicious in this park, they are very judgmental. Oh, look at the comment. There are very negative comments of you, of Heiko, of me, of him.
If I cared about the comments that much, if I cared about the bad feedback, I would stop coming here. It's not. That's not my main point here. Some of my points that I do here. One of them is that I have my own message to spread about certain things, certain ideas. Second of all, I think it's important to speak to people so you know what the common person, the common folk think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not only the news, but also the people themselves. You speak to the people to know what they
Very
think.
good.
And you know, also other things like something that I do sometimes is to see the reaction of people if they're exposed to certain kinds of information. If you say something to them, to see what will they answer to that. For example, you know, a capitalist will have a different reaction to one thing than a socialist will have, and that's the kind of experiment that I like doing sometimes.
Yeah,
But
this is the positive part. But now I am talking about attachment, what it is exactly. Attachment, believe me, hatred is an attachment.
Okay.
Hatred is somehow, anger is different from hatred is an affliction on its own that makes you somehow linked to something. That link into something, it gives you a sense of purpose. Oh, I hate that person, and that person gives me a driving force to overcome my insecurities or my fear of something. It is like a magnet, you know. It is same as love. Love is also attachment.
Yeah, of course.
But love, hatred, by being attachments, they create insecurity within you. The perfect state of mind would be contentment. Because contentment, it means you are neither happy nor unhappy. You are just pleased whatever is your life, whatever you have in your environment. You are pleased and you carry on like this. No emotion into your daily routine or mental emotion. And this is a state of well-being. Hatred, on the contrary, like love, they are not a state of well-being, because whatever goes up in emotion always goes up, must come down. Until it goes up, fine. When it comes down, you enter into depression. You see, that is the curse of attachment. And hatred and love, because they are attachment, they don't make you self-assured. You depend on others. You know? Why do you say, in some time I heard you saying, oh, come next Sunday, I'll see you next Sunday. And the people that you want to see are somebody that might even threaten you, I'll punch your face, I wait outside of the park. But
Are you
why?
talking about on video, on the comments?
On the comments, I saw a guy that said, "Oh, I'm
Me
going
inviting
to
them to speakers' corner.
punch you." And
Yeah, I do that a lot.
No.
I'll tell you why. I can tell you why.
Yeah, tell me why.
So I'm not picking a fight.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is to get them here to actually speak to them in person. Because I am very sure that they will not be able to defend their argument in person with all the different stimuli going on, with all the nerves and all the the difficulties of talking to another person in person and not just typing at home.
Yeah,
I'm
one
not-
to one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
speaking to them one-on-one.
Yeah.
That's what I aim for, an argumentation.
Yes.
To see who has the stronger argument, to see
Yeah.
who has the better arguments that he's
Yeah.
giving, for his point, to prove his point.
Yeah.
That's what I want to
That
achieve.
makes
I want to
sense.
achieve, that
Yeah.
kind of a conflict between people, between different ideas, to see which idea is the best one.
So you don't see any attachment in this project of having an exchange with something that is opposite to you. You don't see.
Well, I have some attachment to my own ideals, yes, but if they are proven wrong to me, I will change them. That's the thing. I have conviction in the things I believe in. I have conviction in the things I think are true. But it's not an absolute conviction. It's not like I believe I got all the answers and I need to teach these answers to all the people. It's more like an invitation to an accepted conflict, to see who has a good point, to see who has better points to give. You know what I mean? I don't think I have a very huge attachment to even this place. Like, I really like this place because there's a lot of potential here to speak about things that you can't speak anywhere else. Because here the structure of power that exists in the rest of the world, basically, doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, you don't really have to hold any kind of idea that even in a very highly intellectual meeting such as in academia, you still have to be careful, and there is the fear of being judged here. I don't think many people have a fear of being judged.
I think everybody has a fear of being judged.
Well, in this
Just
part,
some people control it better than others.
It's been so trivialized so many times in so many ways that you are very free to express really very low standard opinion and point of view. Here you're more free.
Low standard.
Very low standard in the sense that they do not benefit neither you nor anybody else. Like,
I would say, for example, that flat Earth is a very destructive idea to have, flat Earth theory. But the flat Earthers, they would completely disagree with me. Now, who's right?
Yeah.
I think the way to find who has a better opinion is to have a discussion. To have a discussion who actually has the better points. Or you and me, for example, you defend socialism, and I'm very against socialism. We have our own reasons. Now, in a discussion, we can find out who has the better reasons for our conviction. Because you also have an attachment. You can't deny that you have an attachment to your own ideology. For example, to socialism or to capitalism.
But I don't think it's really an attachment, because I link the idea of attachment to hatred. And so far, I don't really hate my project of beefing up a certain narrative. I think it is an evolving process towards knowledge and going deeper into research of what this ideal society, moneyless, classless, stateless, governmentless society is.
Yeah, that's where I disagree. I don't think there is an
like
ideal
an
society.
itinerary of research, same as you is the itinerary of research in bashing socialist ideas. So it is a developing project and not really an attachment, because it is something evolving. It's not stuck to this moment. Tomorrow there is this pandemic, wipe off half of the world population, and the situation and your analysis, your studies will change. dramatically.
So we both have certain attachments. For example,
Yeah.
you have an attachment to defend socialism. I have an attachment to oppose socialism.
Yeah, that is an attachment.
Right. So why do you
That's
have
where
your
we
attachment?
clash.
Why do you have your attachment to defend socialism?
Well, it is mostly based on my life experience. I come from a culture who had 20 years of fascism, and my culture,
Italy, correct?
Italy, ended up in a civil war that was in fact a revolution, and at the end of the revolution, fascism was completely wiped off. It hasn't come back since. There are some youth groups, some small Nazi groups, but they are considered lunatics. They are not really dangerous because by being lunatic, yeah, they can put bombs, wipe off maybe a hospital or a railway station, but they are not a major concern. It's not like saying, okay, now a big Hitler or Mussolini come to power overnight. That possibility doesn't exist.
I mean, yeah, nobody's going to do a march on Rome anytime soon.
No, that possibility is not into existence.
So wait, you support
But,
socialism because you hate fascism and because socialism is against fascism?
No, I don't hate fascism. I am very against Antifa.
Antifa.
They are very delusional and very,
Yeah, they are.
I would say, extremely radical. That is
And very
wrong.
violent too.
You should not be radical. We live, I have the mind of a philosopher. We live in a world of everlasting research, everlasting study. Don't stop at any point soon. But when I find the idea of a more humane society, capitalism cannot be more humane because it's based on making people consume, creating needs that people don't really have, and wipe off all their saving, all their earnings to buy. To buy is greed, is another affliction of the mind. And people should live a very sober life if they can. For example, I don't eat meat. I don't. I eat very measured food. Just. I even grow salad on my balcony to tell you how much sober I am, because consumerism is a curse. Consumerism
Sure,
makes people
capitalism has its
dependent.
own flaws, it's true. It also, encourages some vices in people. I don't deny that. But my point is that capitalism helps people to improve their life.
Yeah.
I would say that through history, at least history has proven so, that when capitalism is put in practice, of course, there are people who will be much richer and people who will be much poorer, and there will always be people, who are living through a tough time in their life. But capitalism has a tendency to pull people away from poverty and pull people, it increases the difference between the rich and the poor, it's true, but it also makes the poor richer. Now, socialism, according from what I've seen in history, it does the opposite. It decreases the difference. In fact, it doesn't decrease the difference. It decreases the difference between the people, the leaders that you can see, but the leaders that you can't see, the top dictators, the top rulers of the Communist Party are always unbelievably rich because they de facto own the country. They own everything about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
So it's the same thing, except capitalism actually helps the poor a little bit.
Well, I don't think the capitalist has never helped the poor. I don't think it's a right assumption, because what made the capitalism dynamic and evolve from competitive capitalism to more factory-based capitalism, concentration of wealth, and the dynamism of the system was the class struggles of the working class. The working class forced the capitalist from competitive capitalist to become more expanded, to expand more in order to shed working class, to use more technology, to use more robotic and computers.
That was always a tendency of capitalism to develop technology.
Yeah, out of the need of shedding working class. because the priority
Shedding
shedding
What do you
working
mean by
class, shedding, laying off working class because working class needs higher and higher wages.
Needs wages, yeah.
Machines
so they
don't.
do machines because machines can do the same work or more work.
Machine
faster.
don't, but machines paradoxically are created by people.
Yeah, of course.
Now the major occupation is in IT. All these factories making robots, so there is still production.
Yeah, but wait, machines are
But
good because they allow us to
machines
produce more. They
will-
allow us to increase the
Yeah,
production, and thus the people who don't have to work on production so much can do other things. You know, in the Middle Ages, for example, 90% of the population would be serfs usually.
Yeah.
They would work to produce food. You know, now
Yeah.
it's unheard of. that most
Capitalism
people
was
would
an
work
advancement compared
in
on,
farms.
on feudalism, was an advancement for the human race. Yeah, advancement in the sense
I wouldn't compare it
that
to feudalism.
the serfs were
Feudalism is
no, it's
based
an
on the rights of the
evolution.
noble. Capitalism is based on profit. Capitalism was when the nobles started losing their grip over society, their absolute grip, and the merchants started getting their grip. Started, producing. The merchants could trade. They could get more production, and thus they took power away from nobles who got impoverished because they didn't know how to produce.
Yeah, but in any case, to cut a long story short, what I am saying is that a system is forced to evolve because of changing circumstances. When feudalism were not able to feed people and there were Black Plague, all these epidemics, because there was not enough food for the majority,
Yeah, that's one of the
then
reasons.
the system had to evolve into a mode of production that would provide enough food for the desperate that would, with their epidemics, infect the whole world.
Wait, we're
You
making a
see.
big jump there from the Black Plague into capitalism. That's a huge jump.
Well, I'm
There were
saying
lots of things in
how
between.
it
Transitions.
evolves. History evolves through and because of needs. When
Yeah, of
there are
course.
major needs, then history is forced to
To
evolve.
solve those needs, people
Yeah.
create new systems and they
But
create new
what
ideologies.
is the issue here is not so much a system capable of evolving, and by evolving also the productive forces who become more also intellectualized in order to fight back. You know, Marx came into existence because there was the French Commune, 1871, the French Commune.
Yeah, but look, that's the
You
problem
know,
with Marx. He separates the people who are ruling the producers from the producers. Now, managers are also an important part of the workplace. It's not only the lowest rank that is producing. The managers are managing. They are, making sure that everything goes orderly. They, make sure everything is functioning well, and then we go up and up and up the certification of power, and every single part of it is necessary. The richest people are so rich also because they need to pay the wages for the poorest of people. They need to pay the wages for everybody underneath them, so they need to earn more, obviously. But of course, sometimes it gets overboard.
Yeah.
Sometimes the rich become
What's
too rich.
happened is this: when you have a system where the means of productions are in private hands, it means that those who own the means of production own the money and own the power. So you reach at a certain point, like we have now, where there are only 8 multi-trillionaires that decide the fate of humanity. COVID-19 didn't come into existence by nowhere. It came because there are major
I've discussed those
contradictions.
theories the other day.
Major contradictions within the system. If the system needs consumers in order to exist and to reproduce itself, that system must create a psychology, a human psychology of people depending on living from hand to mouth because they have to keep on consuming. When you keep on consuming, you have very little savings. You have really no future expectation of how you are going to eat in the next 1 month, 3 months, or whatever. Then that system must collapse. And I believe this COVID-19 will unleash revolutions worldwide if it keeps on spreading. Because people finally will understand that the system creates not only mass poverty, so
Wait a second.
much poverty,
what
but
do you think made COVID-19? What do you think was the origin?
well, I explained before, if you watch this video, I explained there are certain studies, the different studies, and nothing can be proved 100%. Now we are in the stage of finding a solution that's more important than the cause. The cause is still a question mark, but the solution must be found as soon as possible. For example, me and you speaking this close is not a good idea, because it is assumed that it can spread just by talking.
Well, you just
close.
came from Italy, so it's a worse idea for
For you,
me
is
than
a very
for you.
is a very good idea.
The truth of the matter is, I think
I'm not as pale as you, though. So
the truth of the matter is, I think the panic will might do more harm than the actual disease potentially.
of course, 100% right. 100% right.
You know, if they start if they stop the food shipments, if they stop
Yeah.
the movement of people,
Yeah.
and people don't have enough food, then the people who didn't prepare, who didn't get enough food, will start getting really desperate in just 1 or 2 or 3 days.
What we really
Gets,
have to
out of hand very
prepare,
quickly.
what we really have to prepare is anyone has a right to survive, and our perfectly personal survival is the priority. That is something you have to prepare to. You know,
Yeah, of course.
any
without
action
saying.
you take, I take, he takes, in order to survive is always the right action. Always the right action, because I am the priority. Once I'm dead, the world is dead.
Yeah, but the problem is
So-
that eventually, if people get in enough of a bad situation, my survival might conflict with another person's survival. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
of
when
course.
it gets out of hand
Of
very
course.
quickly.
If we are in a closed room and there's nothing to eat,
Okay.
believe me, we will eat each other. The one that kills the other first will eat each other. You know,
Depends on the
I've
time that
saw,
we'll be in
I've
there.
saw, I don't know if you saw the Cannibal of the Andes.
Of the Andes.
They were of the Andes. There were people.
Andes. Is it the
Yeah,
plane
the
that crashed?
plane.
Yeah,
They
they ate
ate
each other.
human
Yeah.
flesh.
They ate the frozen
You know,
corpses.
I mean, it's disgusting, but I mean, the drive for survival is so strong, that you would debase yourself to do something as mad and lunatic and crazy as to eat human flesh.
Yes.
So to make a bit of sarcasm into the discussion, what we should really prepare is to no, it's not mine. What we should really, this is sarcasm, what we should really prepare is the idea of eating human flesh.
Nice one. Nice one.
Thank you very much,
We should.
Pavlov.
I think the real thing we should prepare for is the toilet paper raiders, considering the amount of toilet paper that's being bought. There will be wars fought for
You know
toilet
what
paper.
I
You'll
did?
see.
I tell you my solution to the
That's my
toilet
sarcasm.
paper.
What is it?
No, it really works. I took one day all the clothes that I don't like, and I made a big bundle, and now that is my toilet paper. The clothes I don't like, and I wasn't.
Maybe newspapers. No.
Well,
Journals, newspapers.
no,
Would be
they are
better, right?
petroleum. That's petroleum. It's better not. It's better to just use these clothes and blow your nose or do whatever, wipe your genitals with those and throw them away.
Nice.
Because there is a tremendous shortage, you know, in the US now, not the food, paradoxically, because food still makes profit. But toilet paper, this doesn't make that much of a profit. they have no toilet paper, not even the tissue like Kotex or whatever they use in the kitchen. And so I thought, oh my goodness, it's going to be like that. Then I'm thinking, what am I going to do once I don't have all my clothes are gone and I'm forced to wear only what I'm wearing now? What am I going to do? So I thought, oh, actually I'm going in the bin now looking if there is something to throw in the washing machine, use those.
You know, the stupidity of the situation is that the toilet paper that people buy will last them far longer than the food that they bought.
Yeah,
the food will run short much earlier.
Yeah.
So what sense does it make to buy so much toilet paper? You know, it's just...
No, that is
Are
greed.
you going to eat toilet paper?
No, greed. It is greed.
I think it's the panic that goes by. You know, people want to feel in control of the situation, so they want to buy a lot of stuff, so they feel, so they have peace of mind. You know, they feel like, okay, I can go through with this. I have enough toilet paper forever.
Well, I tell you the truth. When I saw a bag full of clothes that I can use to wipe my ass, I felt a bit better. I thought, oh, I have something there. Some life expectation for the next maybe 2 months.
Everybody has their own solutions to the problems.
Anyway, if you're not finished, I'm going to have a conversation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Where's Uncle Dajuma?
Next conversation coming.
Uncle Dajuma? Huh? No, yeah, we're supposed to have a conversation, isn't it?
Bust me in. I'm at the door. Here comes the steamroller. Yes. The ancient bison is here. You be rolling? Content over everything. From your melody.
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Be rolling. Listen. COE.
Man, don't listen.
All the people out there.
Man, don't listen
And
to
to my brother
ITV. Man, don't
Oak
listen
Club,
to
Kindergarten.
COE.
Last week you wanted to continue, but you know when it gets dark, I can't. And blessing to my sister over there. Yes. And we're having a discussion, and it was truncated because you know vampiracy prevails when it gets dark. I ain't gonna be hanging around. You wanted to ask me some questions? I didn't know what the fuck.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I wanted to share. I've obviously heard you speak about it. I wanted to share my understanding of it.
Yes.
So in this respect now, so there's two treaties that are called buck.
Okay.
One is 642. The other is 652.
Good.
That's my understanding.
Yes,
and
yes.
that the fact that so basically what I did from before is in terms of Nubian now, you have the Badiat, Makuria, and Alwa.
Alodia. Alwa is what Chancellor Williams calls it. It's Alodia. He doesn't know the correct word. Alodia.
It's called Alwa in other documents.
So it isn't correct. It's Alodia.
No, this is ancient like Nubian.